Okay, good morning, everybody. The meeting for April 13th of the year 2022 of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority, we'll call it to order at 9:02. Raymond, would you do roll call?
Yes, sir. Good morning. Ray Mateus, Executive Director of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. Joyce Wilson.
Here.
Jim Smith.
Here.
Joe Wardy.
Here.
Sissy Bird is not present just yet. Mr. Reyes will be out today. Mary Beth Stevens.
Here.
Laura Enriquez.
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay, with all that being said, that we have, this is a very, very special day, and good morning to our chair, Joyce. Good to hear from you, Joyce. And you be sure to chime in anytime you want to keep me straight.
Thanks for covering for me again.
Okay, and Mary Beth, welcome to the board. Sorry you're having travel issues and you can't make it here today, but we're just delighted that you are with us virtually at least, and then we'll look forward to seeing you in person. And Laura Enriquez is here, present. Welcome. It's great to have you with us here on board, and then we also with the new members, we also have a couple that are departing, and that is Nicholas Lamantia and Marco Zaragoza. And so thank you, gentlemen, for your outstanding service and for serving on this board, and we appreciate it. This board is very, very special in a lot of ways, and all of you make it that way. So without further ado, that already takes care of item number 2 on the agenda, and we'll go to item number 3, the adoption of minutes. Anybody need to review those, or are we good?
I reviewed them. I'd like to make a motion to approve this morning.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Okay. All right. Number 4 is a big item on the agenda, and we got quite an audience out here today with us. Welcome to everybody that is joining us. And if you, Raymond, would take control of item number 4, presentation, discussion, and action on a board resolution selecting one or more general engineering consultants pursuant to the CRRMA's request for qualifications issued on February 7th, 2022, and authorizing the executive director to negotiate an agreement with such selected firms. Raymond.
Thank you. As mentioned, my name is Ray Mateus. I'm the Executive Director of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority, and we are here to talk about the GEC procurement. So we do have a PowerPoint for you all. I'm not able to move this. Can IT help me out?
That's my line.
And mine.
Okay, got it. I'll take care of it from here. Okay, so this is the agenda for this item. We're going to talk about the role of the GEC, and I know we've got a couple of new members with us today. So we'll spend a little bit of time talking about our general engineering consultant team. We'll talk about the procurement timeline for this one, the submittals received, the scoring criteria, and the process that was utilized to get to the technical review committee scoring, and then ultimately discussion and a staff recommendation with a request for board action. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Stop me along the way should you have any questions, please. But the role of the GEC for the RMA is actually, for this particular RMA, is really quite broad. We do bring them on primarily to serve as the engineering staff to the RMA, but they serve many other roles. By way of example, here are some recent services provided by our current GEC. So we've got planning services where they completed the airport zoning plan for the county's Fabens Airport. They provided they are providing design services for the Weiler Aerial Tramway project. They've also done project management under the 2013 CMP program, and then of course project oversight through the IDC program, which is the indefinite deliverables contracts, which we're going to talk about that in a subsequent agenda item as well. That's where we bring on about 4 or 5 different engineering firms to provide design services on an as-needed basis. Well, the GEC teams provide the design oversight for those activities. This is, of course, just a small sampling of the types of work that they do for us. Robert was mentioning to me recently that we have over 30 different projects in various stages of development right now, and the GEC is involved in every one of those to help us stay on track. So it's quite an important role for us. This is the timeline. I should mention too, the last procurement we did ended up with a contract being signed in 2015, so it has been quite some time. So periodically we go back and we do a re-procurement of our general engineering consultant team. So that's why we're here today.
Okay, one moment, please. I'd like to recognize the fact that the board member, Sissy Bird, is here with us this morning. Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you. So in terms of the timeline for this procurement, we issued the request for qualifications on February 7th. By the 28th of February, we completed the question and answer process. So what we do is when we issue the request for qualifications, we solicit input from the firms on any items within the procurement that were unclear. So that's the Q&A process. By March 7th, we had received 2 team submittals. March 23rd, we convened a technical review committee, and we'll talk about that group here shortly. Today's April 13th, where we are seeking direction from the board. Subject to that action, in June, we anticipate moving forward with the agreement. These were the submittals that were received. We received one from our current general engineering consultant team, which is Atkins North America. We also received a submittal from HNTB Corporation. I've highlighted in I guess that's gold, the firms that are different. So there is some crossover in terms of the subs that would provide the services to us under these different GEC teams. So to go through them, Atkins, as the primary, has submitted a subs list of ECM International, Omega Engineers, Brock and Bustillos, and CQC Testing. HNTB, meanwhile, has submitted a sub list of ECM, Brock and Bustillos, CQC, Flores Media Consulting, Professional Services Industries, and TXP. This is the scoring criterion process, and as you recall, before we pursue any particular procurement, the staff will bring to you recommended scoring criteria, and so these percentages were approved by the board. The way that we've broken out this particular procurement has 40% of the score goes towards experience and ability of firm, and that's everything that you see there from qualifications, relevance of experience, and that sort of thing. 30% then goes to the approach to the services. Those reviews include demonstrated understanding of services and that type of thing. And then the remaining 30% goes to the staffing that is proposed by each of the teams. So in that area, we're looking at qualifications, years in similar field, and that type of thing. As mentioned before, we use a technical review committee. So the idea here is that we have professionals from our stakeholders, the agencies that we work most with, come in and they assist us by evaluating the submittals. In this particular procurement, we had someone from the city of El Paso, Ismael Cepeda, and I'll mention that these evaluators are identified alphabetically here. Ismael Cepeda, a professional engineer who works in the capital projects division of the city of El Paso. Jose Landeros, who's the Director of Strategic Development for El Paso County, and Becky Pinto from TxDOT. She's a professional engineer working as a transportation engineer supervisor there at TxDOT. So I want to thank them publicly for their work. They spent a lot of time looking through these submittals, and we had a really good conversation about the submittals, the strengths, the weaknesses, and everything in between.
Are any of them here today, or?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, if you're listening in, thank you very, very much for your contributions and your service.
Yes, thank you for that. These are the scores. I'll mention evaluators. These are now anonymous evaluators, right? These 1, 2, and 3 do not necessarily match the order that I presented on the prior slide. You'll see it was very close, and we had a lot of conversation in the evaluation committee about how close they were, the strengths of each of the firms. 2 points away out of a 100-point scale is really quite close. You will see, though, that Atkins was ranked higher at 90.3, with HNTB coming in at 88.3. So here's the recommendation. I'll start off by saying the request for qualifications included the ability for the RMA to select one or more GECs. The idea there is that through any of these procurements, there are strengths and weaknesses with each of the firms. So the idea was to keep flexibility available to the RMA should we come to a situation where the firms are very equally matched and we wanted to pursue both. And that's what you're seeing from us today in terms of a recommendation. I'll tell you that there are several RMAs throughout the state. Central Texas, Cameron County, Alamo, and Net RMA each use multiple GECs. So the idea then is very similar to what we do with the IDC program. So as I mentioned before, with the IDC program, we've selected in our current situation, we have 5 engineering firms serving in the IDC program. And each time a project comes up, we go through the rotation and hand out projects. We're looking to do something similar in this situation. The team scored very closely. We've had really good positive experience from the IDC program. Multiple RMAs have been doing this for quite some time over the years, and we've been watching them, and they've really, I think, done quite well with this approach. So with all of that in mind, the recommendation from staff is actually to select both Atkins North America, Inc. and HNTB Corporation to serve as general engineering consultants to the RMA. The agreements per the procurement would be at 5-year base terms with 2 2-year options. Now, of course, should you want to proceed this way, and in fact, actually, that'll be the next slide here. The motion that we are recommending and requesting is a motion to approve a board resolution to select Atkins North America, Inc. and HNTB Corporation to serve as general engineering consultants to the CRRMA, and also to authorize the executive director to begin contract negotiations with each firm. And I think I could bring them back should you approve within the next couple of months.
I have a
Happy
couple
to
of
answer
questions. I think they're both very fine companies. The question I have for you, Raymond, is do we have enough work to make it worthwhile for both of them? I mean, I know we're relatively busy, but we don't have any real major projects in the pipeline.
Well, I'll say we have certain initiatives that we're pursuing right through the infrastructure bill, through other arenas that I do think we will have work coming. I will mention, in fact, one of the really important points from this procurement was the request for these firms to come up with ideas for our future, right? So one of the first steps out of the selection process will be to work with one or both of these GEC teams to develop a true in-depth planning session where we can look to what those future projects will be. So I may not be answering as directly as you're looking. I will say though that we're in the midst of 30+ projects that I mentioned before. I think there is enough work.
Second of all, are they both going to be agreeable to this?
Well, that I couldn't answer, not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Laura?
I have a question. I'm sorry. This is my first meeting. I'm not sure, but I was wondering if either of these companies, are they local or are they out of town? I just wondered if they're local, yes. If they're from out of town, then I wondered, is there anyone locally that can do that? It's something that sort of as a lawyer in El Paso, I kind of know is sort of important.
Yes, ma'am. So we monitor that as well. In fact, under item 7D later today, you're going to see a quarterly report that the board has requested and we've been doing for a number of years, specifically to look at the local question. Now stepping back, GEC firms require quite a bit of expertise. There is not that expertise here locally. So when you ask, are they local, Atkins and HNTB have local offices, but they're not based here. However, a number of their subs, and in fact, if we're able to go back a few slides, a number of the subs, Brock and Bustillos, ECM, CQC, a lot of these subs are here based locally. So let me touch on this as well, since you raised the issue. Under 7D, you'll see the report, the quarterly report from our current GEC. The way that this organization has looked at the local question is not, is the firm local? The question is, how many of the staff members that are providing the work to this agency live here and are receiving their salaries? They're paying for mortgages here, they're paying for groceries here, and that sort of thing. So it's a local impact review as opposed to a local firm, because we've seen over the years there's a lot of difficulty in determining whether a firm is local or not. At one point, there was a conversation at a different agency that deemed Walmart to be local. So it becomes really, it's sticky, right? So this is how we deal with it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay,
This is
Mr.
Mary
Boyer?
Beth. I had a quick question too, if I may. You said, or you mentioned, I don't know if you meant it literally, that you would rotate the projects, but as a project would come up, would there be like bidding between the two, or literally rotation, or?
I think, sorry. So I think it would be much more informal than that. It would not be a true rotation like we do with the IDC. I think it would be project specific. That's what I'm envisioning at this point. So we would look to the expertise of the individual firms and tie it to the individual project that we're pursuing at that time.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
any other comments? I would add a comment here, in that this is unique. I think it's got some real potential strengths to it, especially in the form of, like we met with our planning committee yesterday, or whatever it was, sometime this week, and that the input for the ideas and future projects and putting together plans to do that, having the capability from multiple very, very qualified people to feed into that has some advantages to it in that arena, especially as we look towards the potential that's out there with the infrastructure bill and other grant opportunities and everything that are out there. So I look forward to exploring that possibility as it goes forward, and that's all part of you trying to figure out how to make that happen, if in fact everybody's agreeable to that.
I should mention also both firms are here should you have any questions of them as well.
Okay,
I have a question.
yeah, Sissy.
As far as these two firms, how many years have we actually been using them?
Atkins has been our only GEC since the RMA was created. I want to say we first brought them on in, it must have been 2008, 2009.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Before we go to a vote, this is Joyce. I'm fine with this approach. I think with some of the larger projects potentially out there, that'll be a lot more complicated and time consuming, that there's some merit here. And I am excited about the prospect of them working with us to kind of help us look at ourselves as an organization and entity and how we can grow and better position ourselves for the region. So if there's no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. So I guess congratulations are in order to the both GECs, and I would welcome you if you would like, any of you would like to make a comment, reference what's going on. If everything works out and our negotiating executive director is able to work out a deal with all of you, we would look forward to working with you on future things. So I would open, if representative from each entity would like to make a comment, you're welcome.
Board members, Ed Graffino, Atkins, we are pleased with the selection, and we will move forward working with the board and with Mr. Tays and Mr. Studer as we've done for the last 12, 14 years. So I look forward to the partnership. Thank you.
And on behalf, I would just say that we really appreciate the relationship we have with you all, and the amazing work that you've done with us and for us. And I'm sure that you wouldn't be standing here right now if that wasn't the case in the past. So thank you all very, very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Joyce, you have any comments?
No, I don't. I agree with you there,
Okay.
100%.
Right. Okay, HNTB.
Good
Kelvin?
morning, board and staff. HNTB is very pleased to hear the results of the selection today. You have our commitment to work closely with the RMA in executing the projects. We've got a team of local subconsultants as well as 13 people here sitting in downtown El Paso, just a couple of blocks away. So we're ready to engage. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Cool. Would you identify yourself for the record there?
Oh, pardon me. I skipped that. Calvin Craker with HNTB.
Okay. Thank you all very much. We look forward to working with you, assuming that our executive director can hash everything out. So thank you all very much. And if the selection committee is watching again, I will repeat, thank you very, very much for your service and what you did for us. Okay, Raymond? You want to wrap that?
That's it for
Item
item
up
number
at
4.
all?
I
Okay.
should mention actually before we move on, TxDOT provides review and oversight as the federal agency for us, as the designated agency from the federal side. So I want to thank them as well for their participation as we wrap this up. So thank you
Great.
for that.
Thank you, TxDOT. Okay, with that being said, that was a biggie. Let's go on to item number 5. Discussion and action on a board resolution establishing scoring criteria and authorizing the issuance of a procurement for the selection of one or more professional engineering consultants desirable for indefinite desirable contracts. Okay, we did that.
Not yet. So this one is different. So as we discussed earlier and has come up about our indefinite deliverable contracts, periodically we go out for a new round of engineers that can provide us design services on an on-call basis, essentially is what this is. The last one we did was back in 2019, so we're due for another one. Included as part of your backup is the scoring criteria, and I mentioned this before too. Whenever we pursue a new procurement, we always bring the scoring criteria to the board for their input. So what you see as part of your backup is the breakout of the scoring for this particular procurement. We've got 30% going to team organization and staffing, 25% for past project experience, 35% for project understanding and approach, and 10% for project schedule. So this matches what we've used in prior IDC procurements as well. Happy to answer any questions, but otherwise I would recommend approval.
Any questions? Okay, entertain a motion to approve.
I make that motion.
Motion from Sissy, a second.
I'll second it.
A second from Joe. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Now we go on to item number 6. Presentation, discussion, and action on change orders recently approved by the Executive Director for the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan. Raymond.
Okay, we've got a PowerPoint for you on this one as well. For the benefit of the newer board members, the board back in 2018 passed a resolution that authorizes the executive director to make change orders in any particular construction project up to the amount of $100,000. If the change order is up to $50,000, the executive director is able to do so, and then come back to the board at the very next board meeting and present that change order that was approved. If it's over 50 but under 100,000, I have to send immediate notice to the board by email and alert you to that change order. So in this past month, then we're showing a PowerPoint with 3 change orders that were approved over this past month, and there was one recommended action for you all today related to those change orders. So all 3 of them relate to the Pelicano Drive widening project, which you can see there on the map. And of course, all of this is part of your backup as well. These are prior change orders. So in each of these monthly updates, we provide you with the change orders to date. And you can see some of the prior ones that have been approved, the funding sources, and that sort of thing. These were the 3 that were approved over this past month. So number 13 was approved several days after the last board meeting. You'll see the amount was $61,000. This was to install 2 water loops to provide service to an adjacent property owner to the project, and that's actually being paid for by that property owner. This agreement was executed in prior months, so it should be somewhat familiar to some of the older board members, but this one was approved. As noted, because it was over $50,000, there was an email that went out to the board after this one was executed to alert you. Number 14 and number 15 is a little bit unique. You will likely remember them from last month, the older board members, because these were brought to the board in anticipation of execution last month because they were totaling over $100,000. And in fact, let me show you. This is the slide that I presented to you all last month. This related to site conditions requiring certain a new rock wall and new swales, basically drainage facilities. The total construction cost was estimated at $308,000, and that was approved last month. However, in working after that approval and working with TxDOT and the county, it was determined that that particular change order needed to be separated into 2 distinct change orders, and that's because some of the work, specifically adding the retention basins, was going to be funded entirely by the county and would not receive any federal participation. So that's why we had to separate them out. The total amount of those change orders was $306,000, so it was actually under the $308,000 that you all authorized in the prior action. So in an abundance of caution, I'm bringing it back to you all to ratify that action, even though, because it is different, right? So I asked for authorization to sign change order number 14 in the amount of $308,000. We actually split those into change order 14 and 15, totaling less by $2,000. So that's really what we're doing today. I'm asking you for a motion to ratify the executive director's execution of change orders 14 and 15 with JAR Construction, for the provision of additional compensation for additional project costs associated with the installation of 2 retention basins and a retaining wall due to differing drainage runoff site conditions. So hopefully that makes sense. Subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of this motion.
Raymond, just me going back to when I was a new member of the board, the word change order is a red flag and is very, very scary and has a lot of potential problems associated with it. So what you told me as we worked through that process was the process that you go through to approve these change orders that you've got the responsibility to do, i.e. the amount of review that's done from whoever's paying the bill and the kind of scrutiny that all of those requests get. Would you please elaborate on that for the new members?
Yes, sir. That's a really good point. In fact, I've gone back to a different slide I'd like to show as well. So in terms of process, this particular project is funded, as I mentioned before, federally. There is federal participation. So that means any change order that we enter into requires federal review, which is delegated down to TxDOT. So TxDOT has reviewed each of these change orders that we've approved to date. They've also reviewed, of course, the one that they will participate here, which is number 15. In addition to that, because it is federally funded, there is a local match. The local match comes from the County of El Paso. They have reviewed and approved each of these change orders as well. And then lastly, because number 13 in particular is being funded by a separate third party, that change order has been reviewed and approved by the funding entity in that particular case. So there are multiple reviews along the way. Of course, our general engineering consultant team reviews it first and then presents it to the RMA and the county and the TxDOT to seek all of those approvals. So there is quite a bit of review. I will mention though, these presentations that we give you, we also want to show you the amount in total change orders that we've accrued, and that's what you see in the bottom line. So you'll see the TxDOT and county amounts where we have totaled negative $97,000 in change orders. What that means is we had what's referred to as a deductive change order. Let me actually take a step back for our newer members. Change orders are done for a number of reasons. Sometimes you find site condition that wasn't anticipated. You find utilities that were not marked in prior plans. You find all sorts of things under the ground once you begin digging. So a change order is the tool that you utilize to remedy that situation. There are also other change orders that are owner initiated, by way of example number 13, where you have an adjacent property owner saying he needs water service. While we're digging up the roadway, he asks if we can add those water connections to his property with him footing the bill. It makes a lot more sense than laying down the roadway and then an adjacent property owner coming in, tearing it up later and making those connections. So that's an example of a different type of change order. The third type of change order is a deductive change order, meaning, and in fact, I'll give you the example for that one. This one here, number 1. The contractor came to us very early in the project and proposed using different materials that were originally planned to be used and directed to be used in our plan sets. That different material actually saved time for the project and saved money, and that's why we have a deductive change order, actually reducing the amount that was going to the contractor. So when you factor in all of those change order amounts, you'll see the total combined change orders at $327,000. The total bid, the project as it was bid is over $21 million. So then you see the percentages there of the total change orders impacting the bottom line project budget. So I hope that is helpful.
That's very, very good. You have any questions, Laura or Maribeth? Anybody have any questions about that process?
No questions for me.
Okay.
No, but thank you.
Okay, Raymond.
So if you don't have any questions, then I would recommend approval of the motion as stated on the screen before you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I second it. And I have a comment. I thought it was a good thing that you actually separated number 14, because isn't it a lot easier to be accountable for each of the funding because the funding is coming from 2 different entities, to have them separate?
Yes, ma'am. That's the exact reason why we separated them out. Originally, we thought that TxDOT was going to participate in both actions. When they determined that they would not participate in the one, then we separated it out. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes.
But I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thanks.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, item number 7, presentation discussion of the following reports for the second quarter of fiscal year 2022. Interim financial statement and budget update and investment report. And then the El Paso Bike Share Sun Cycle Program and the General Engineering Consultant Team's use of local resources.
Good morning, Robert Studer, Director of Finance for the CRRMA. For the record, at the direction of Board Chair Wilson, items A, B, and C were reviewed by the Finance Committee last week. Thank you to those committee members. We spent more time in depth on those and able to answer their questions. So wasn't planning to present those to you today unless you'd like to see something specific on those. D is something that we provide to the board each month, and in fact, Raymond and I were talking, and I think we'll start taking that to the finance committee to take a little deeper look at that on a quarterly basis if you'd like to. That way the finance committee can dig into that if they choose. But that's all I have for you today.
Okay, any comments from the chair of the?
No, I can tell you we had a very lively meeting and discussed those items in great detail. And if there are no further questions, I'm not going to jump on your deal. I'd make a motion to approve, subject to any more questions.
I
I'll
make that
second.
motion.
Okay, we have a motion and with second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item number 8, reports and updates. Update and discussion from the CRRMA Planning Committee, and B, biannual CRRMA Board Planning Session in May. Okay, so as the chair of the Planning Committee, I will give you a brief update. Mainly we brought, and by the way, I would like to thank all of the supporting agencies that come and participate with the Planning Committee, what consists of myself, Congressman Reyes, and Mary Beth Stevens, who wasn't able to join us yesterday or this week for the first time, but we look forward to working with her. But the Planning Committee did meet, but we had some outstanding participation from all of those people that help us do what we need to do as we look to the future. And we had a lot of good representation, to include from our GEC, from the County of El Paso, from TxDOT, and that was pretty much it. But just a great meeting, and Joyce, for your information, our main thing that we're doing is working hard and towards our strategic planning session in May, when we can sit down and really start putting some meat to our preparations for the potential resources from the infrastructure bill that are out there in the form of both grants and different application processes, as well as the discretionary funds that come down to the different agencies. So that committee is a pleasure to be a part of, and I look forward to expanding the capabilities of that committee, along with our GEC partners, as we look to the future. So, any questions or comments, Joyce or anybody else on the board?
I don't have any. Thanks for the good work though on the planning committee.
Okay, all right. So if there are no questions, Raymond, you want to bring up the details for our May strategic planning session?
Yes, sir. So this is just a reminder for the board to place an item on your calendar for the second Wednesday of May. We will have our biannual planning session. We have Tracy Yellen, who will shepherd us through that process again this time. And so I think what I'm envisioning as of now is we'll handle the board action as the first items, just like we did the last time, and then break off into the planning session. We're working on a location, and we'll get back to you on that. But just add an item to your calendar.
And I might ask if you would send to Joyce and to the planning committee all those potential people that you are going to specifically invite to join us
Sure.
for that session.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I will apologize in advance. I'm going to be out of the country, but I'll be able to participate remotely if that is an option.
Okay. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, that would be fine. Raymond, have you talked with Tracy at all about her process this year? Or do I need to get with her?
Not yet. We confirmed the date, but we haven't gotten into the
Okay.
specifics. We said that we would get together as the date comes closer.
Yeah, because it might be worthwhile for her to do some advanced outreach to the board, like through some survey instrument, just to get some advanced ideas from folks to help sort of lay out the framework. And then the work that the planning committee did, make sure she's got that. And I'll follow up too. I'll be back before the end of this month.
Okay, I'll send her something and I'll copy you on it, and we'll get that done.
And have the two new members been given copies of the current planning effort?
No, they haven't, but I can share that with them today.
Yeah, it would be good for them to see what we did last time, that kind of what the current plan looks like based on what we did the last time we met.
Okay, I'll get that out today. In fact, I'll
And
send
we
it to.
probably people need to be prepared to spend, a few hours, like, what did we say, 9 to 12?
I'll check on what we did last time. I imagine
Yeah, we
that'll be
usually
pretty
did about
representative.
2.5 hours. And let's keep the agenda short and just deal with things that we need to do action on. And no, we don't need to go over any reports at the next meeting, so we can really focus on this. That would be helpful too.
Sounds good. I'll do that.
All right.
Okay. Mr. Wardy.
I'd like to step out a little bit. We have been trying to move forward with the city of El Paso using what we're doing with the county as an example. It's just a recommendation for me. I think we ought to invite the city and the county at a high level to participate. And if we can't get Tommy there, maybe we can get Kerry Weston there, one of his deputies. Somehow we've got to start to plant the seed that there are services we can provide for the city, but we haven't been able to break through in that area. So just a suggestion.
That's a great suggestion. That was a big part of our planning committee meeting that we talked about. And so, yeah, you're right on. We need to do that. And the planning committee asked our staff to prepare some stuff for us to specifically target that entity.
I agree, and I also think the same for TxDOT. We did a lot of work with TxDOT early on, but not so much recently. They chose to do more stuff internally, and there might be some opportunities there as well to kind of re-expand that relationship.
Yes, and just to review that, Marty Boyd did join us at the planning committee meeting. And
Okay,
again,
great.
that was a very specific, and as you know, she's in charge of planning for the local district office.
Okay, good.
And so that she's been a real willing partner, but we need to, you're right, Joyce, we kind of pinned a rose on her during that meeting that we need to get some specifics and so that we can start actually have something in our sights that we can shoot for. So you're right on with that comment. Okay, we are at the end of the agenda. Is there anything to go into executive session,
No, sir.
Raymond? Okay. With that being said, it's now 0946. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
A second.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
So thank you all.
Thank you, Jen.